December 7th, 1946, Lieutenant Charles. Taylor raised a high five. Bombers. After 2 hours, they all disappeared forever. Without a trace, without debris, without bodies. Rescue planes sent to search. Disappeared 13 minutes after. Takeoff. 6 cars, 27 people. Dissolved into the air above the place, which will later be called cursed. But that's not the main thing. The main thing is that Lieutenant Taylor, before disappearing, he managed to transmit a phrase that the military classified on the radio. For 70 years, a phrase that explains everything. And the phrase sounded like this. They are again, here as then in 43. We enter the white water. White water. Have you ever heard this term? No, because he was cut out of everyone. Official documents. Erased from the transcripts of the negotiations. Replaced with the words navigation error and compass failure. But those who served in the Navy in those years, they knew and they kept silent because those who said they wrote it off to the shore or sent to psychiatric clinics. Do you think the whole can? A squadron of experienced pilots just disappear in clear weather over a well-explored area of the sea? Write to, in the comments, do you believe in the official version or do you feel that the truth is completely in another? Now you will be told a story. The story that was collected bit by bit from declassified U.S. Navy archives, testimonies of sailors, records, and radio interception and documents that they are still trying to hide it. You will find out that actually happened in Bermuda, Triangle, and why they kept silent about it. 7 decades. Let's start with what it's not customary to say. In 1945, the war ended. Europe lay in ruins. Japan surrendered after 2 atomic bombs. The world breathed a sigh of relief, but United States Navy didn't relax. On the contrary, in December, patrol activity in 1945, flights over the Caribbean Sea increased in 3 times. Why? Officially searched. German submarines that could escape. Capitulation and hiding in the area. Bohemian Islands. But those who read closed orders, they knew something else. They were looking for, not submarines. They were looking for what they had seen back in the 43rd year, what was described, pilots returning from night flights, pale and shaking, that which it was forbidden to speak even to comrades. Service, objects, luminous objects under, water the size of a football field, moving at incredible speed, rising from the depths and hanging above the planes without sound, without exhaust, without any signs of known technologies. In the Coast Guard archives, the United States has a report from July 23rd, 1943. It was compiled by a captain of the 2nd rank, James Morrison, after patrol, south of Bermuda. In the report, described as at a depth of about 100, the sonar detected an object with diameter of 150 m. The object was moving at a speed of over 100 knots. This is impossible for anyone, one submarine of that time. It's impossible even now. But further, more interesting, the object began to rise. The echo sounder showed how it was reducing. Depth, 80 m, 50, 30. Ship's crew. I ran out onto the deck and saw a glow, cold white-blue glow, spreading underwater, as if someone turned on a searchlight on the ocean floor. The glow rose to the surface, and then the water around the ship turned white, not foamy, not cloudy, white as milk, dense, viscous, glowing from within. The ship lost control. The steering wheel is not obeyed. The engines were running, but the ship stood in place as if stuck in jelly. The compasses spun, showing everything. Directions simultaneously. Radio communication disappeared. Captain Morrison ordered, "The team does not panic." We noted the time. The white water held them for exactly 11 minutes. Then she disappeared as suddenly as appeared. The object on the echo sounder went to depth and disappeared from the screens. Ship Could move again. Connection. Recovered. Morrison reported on. Incident. He was summoned to the naval headquarters. The conversation lasted 4 hours behind closed doors. After this, the captain received promotion and transfer to land. Position in Washington. His team disbanded and sent to different places. Bases. The report disappeared from the official archives, but a copy remained. Copy, which Morrison did before. Give the document to the command. He hid her in a personal safe, and before her death in 1972, he handed it over to his son with the words, "Someday, someone has to know." Truth. The Sun published the document in 1998. The military did not comment. They just said that it was fake, that Captain Morrison didn't exist, that a ship with such a hull number never did not serve in that area. It's a lie because what's in the U.S. Navy Pension Fund's archives, there's information about payments to James Morrison. There are photographs of him in uniform. There are award sheets. Human, existed, served, commanded, and saw what? Saw. And he was not alone. In the period from 1942, by 1945, white water was observed at least 12 times. These are just the recorded ones. Cases for which some remain. Traces in documents. How much was there? Unrecorded, no one knows. The sailors were afraid to speak because, after each report of a strange phenomenon, the person was either transferred or written off as mentally unstable. But the command knew and was preparing. In November 1945, at Ford Air Force Base, Lauderdale assembled a special group, 5 Avenger-type bombers, experienced pilots, the best navigators. The problem is formulated briefly: patrolling, photography, surveillance. But unofficially they were told something else. If you see white water, don't leave. Stay close. Record everything. Report every detail by radio. The group was led by Lieutenant Charles Taylor, 31 years old, more than 2.5 hours. Raid, participant in battles in the Pacific Ocean. A man who never lost his way under any circumstances. Circumstances that knew heaven and the sea is your own home. December 5th, 14:10:05 planes took off. The weather is excellent. Visibility is ideal. The route is simple. East along, coast of Florida, then turn on to, north to the Bohemian Islands, then return to base. Regular training. Flight normal until 15:45. At this time, the first one was accepted at the base. Message from Taylor. The voice is calm, but tense. We have problems. Compasses don't work. Both. We don't know where. We are located. It seems we're lost. The dispatcher answered and asked for the name. Landmarks. Taylor paused and said, "I see only water. The land is gone. I can't determine the direction. It's strange because the flight took place within sight of the shore. Even if, fly a little to the side, Florida or the Bahamas should still be visible." But Taylor claimed he saw only the ocean in all directions. The next half hour, the connection was interrupted. Only the following could be heard. Fragments of phrases. The water is strange. The color, wrong. The devices went crazy. After, silence again. At 4:25 p.m. Taylor went out. Connection again. And then that sounded. The very phrase, the one that was cut out from all official reports. The one that the base radio operator recorded it on tape in spite of, by order of the command. They are here again, just like back in 43. We are entering white water. I repeat, white water. Visibility is decreasing. The devices are dead. The connection was lost. No more from Flight 19. There was no sound, no distress signal, no Radio Maya, nothing. 5 planes with 14 people disappeared into. In the air, the alarm was raised at the base. Through 20 minutes later, a rescue craft took off. Seaplane, big flying boat. capable of landing on water and picking up crews from the water. There are 13 people on board. Rescue team. The plane took off to the presumed area of disappearance. And at 1707, the seaplane transmitted coordinates. Exit to the search zone. At 1720 from him, a short message arrived. Weather changes. I see a glow on the water. After silence, the rescue plane has disappeared. 6 cars, 27 people. In 4 hours, the Navy raised everything that could fly. Hundreds of planes, combed square by square. Ships patrolled every area. Seas between Florida and the Bahamas. Search 5 days, then 2 weeks, then a month. Found nothing, no debris, no oil stains, no life jackets, no strings. Absolutely nothing, like airplanes. Evaporated into a parallel dimension. The official investigation was completed in March 1946. Conclusion. Cause. Disappearance is unknown. More likely, in total, it was a lieutenant's navigational error. Taylor led to the fact that the planes flew into the open ocean, worked out fuel, and fell into the water. Rescue. The seaplane allegedly exploded in the air due to a fuel leak. Beautiful, logical, reassuring, and completely false. Because there is no navigation error. Explains why the compasses failed. All 5 planes at the same time. Doesn't explain why the most experienced pilot doesn't. Could determine the direction to the shore, although it was flying within sight of land. Does not explain the words white water and they. Here again, and it certainly doesn't explain. Why didn't they find a single piece of debris? A plane that crashed into the sea leaves behind. Traces. Always an oil stain from fuel. Pieces of upholstery, seat cushions, whatever you like. But there was nothing here. And this, it means only one thing. The planes didn't crash. They disappeared before they could fall. The mother of one of the missing pilots, a woman named Mary Jordan. All. The rest of my life required revision. Affairs. She wrote letters to Congress. The Pentagon collected in newspapers. Evidence. Found inconsistencies in. Official version. Published them in local publications. In 1952, Mary Jordan has disappeared. Just didn't come back. Home after another visit to the military. Archive. Her body was found 3 days later. Car in an empty parking lot. Official. The cause of death was a heart attack. The woman was 47 years old. She didn't have health problems. In her house after. People have experienced death. Neighbors saw how. A van without identification arrived. Signs. 3 men in civilian clothes carried out. Several boxes. When relatives. We came to unpack our things and discovered that all documents, all letters, all clippings, newspaper reports about Flight 19 have disappeared. Only personal belongings remained and photos. This is called a purge. And she says one thing. Someone is the truth must remain hidden. But there are things that cannot be hidden. Fully. There are people who have seen, those who know, those who have decided. Speak, despite the consequences. 1. Robert Graves is one of such people. In 1945, that year he served as a radio operator at Ford Air Force Base. Lauderdale, the same radio operator who received the last messages from the flight. 19. He recorded the negotiations on tape, contrary to the direct order of the command, and hid this film. Graves saved silence for 40 years, until 1985. Years. Then he gave an interview to a local radio stations, told everything about Belia, water, about Taylor's words, about how security officers showed up, base 2 hours after the disappearance, and they took all the recordings of the conversations. Like everyone else, the participants in the events were ordered to remain silent. Threat of a tribunal. Graves promised the film, to pass it on to journalists, but didn't have time. Through a week after the interview, his house burned down. Robert Graves died in the fire. Film, if She existed and burned down along with him. Firefighters have determined the cause. Short circuit in electrical wiring. Accident, maybe but very timely. Accident. Flight 19 was the first high-profile. Disappearance in the Bermuda Triangle, but not the only one and not even the most. Strange. This was just the beginning. Start. A series of events that forced the military. The United States created a secret program. Observations of this area. Program about which no one outside knows. A narrow circle, a program that still works. In 19,448, in the year, a passenger plane of flight. San Juan, Miami. 32 people on board. Pilot's last message. Approaching Miami. Everything is fine. The weather is great. The plane is leaving in 5 minutes. Should have requested landing, but no request. Did not follow. The plane did not reach its destination. Connection. Did not appear on the airport radar. Disappeared 80 kilometers off the coast of Florida. We searched for 2 weeks and found absolutely nothing. Nothing, not even lifeboats, which are automatically fired upon. Planes falling into water. They don't even. Found. In 1950, the freighter disappeared. Ship Sandra. Length 100 m. Displacement 500 tons. Crew 28. Human. Came out of Savannah, heading towards Venezuela. The last radio signal. Sent south of Bermuda. Reported about. Good weather and normal operation of all systems. The ship did not arrive at the port. Appointments. There was no satellite communication back then. But the ship had to go out. Communication once a day according to schedule. Came out. They raised the alarm and searched for 3 weeks. Found one life preserver with a name. The vessel, and that's it, nothing more. Ship simply disappeared along with the crew, together with the cargo, without a storm, without disasters, without signs of a struggle for life. And 1952, in a year, a British transport ship disappeared. Airplane, 33 people, including the crew. I was flying from London to Jamaica. Latest, message transmitted over Bermuda. Islands, everything is fine, we will be there soon. Jamaica, the plane did not arrive. Search, lasted for a month. British Air Force, we raised everything available. American Navy, helped. We surveyed 1,000 kilometers. The result is 0. No debris, no threads, no oil stains, and so on and so forth. The list is growing. Every year more and more. More ships, planes, yachts large, and small military and civilian, experienced captains and newcomers, disappear into good weather, disappear in bad weather, disappear in full visibility, disappear without warning. Someone will say, the ocean is big, the technology is imperfect, accidents happen. Yes, they happen, but why are there so many more of them here than in any other area of the Atlantic? Why is there a frequency in the Bermuda Triangle? The number of disappearances exceeds statistically the norm by 17 times. Official science. He says it's a myth. He says nothing happens in the triangle. Unusual. Says all the disappearances are explained by natural causes. Okay, then explain Flight 19. Explain how 5 serviceable planes with experienced pilots got lost in the clear, whether on a well-studied route. Explain why the compasses failed. Explain white water. Explain why not a single piece of debris was found after weeks. Searches. There is no explanation. There is only versions that sound implausible, magnetic anomalies, methane emissions, giant waves, time portals, aliens. Each one, the version explains something, but none of them explains everything. Magnetic anomalies will make the plane disappear without a trace. Methane emission could sink ship, but why don't they surface then? Debris, giant waves are crashing ship, but the remains are still found. Time portals and aliens come out beyond science. Then what? There's an answer. It is in the archives, access to which is restricted, classified as top secret, lies down in the testimony of sailors and pilots, whom forced to remain silent. It's in the documents, research programs about the existence of which he should not know. Nobody. After the disappearance of Flight 19, the U.S. military launched a secret Operation Code Name Marine Guard. Officially, the program is not. Existed, was not included in the budgets, it wasn't mentioned in the reports, but people, those who worked in it were. Technique, used for observation, existed. The results obtained in the course of research. There is, see Guardian. Work since 1946 until 1974. Year, 28 years of continuous observation. Bermuda Triangle. Special ships with enhanced equipment. Reconnaissance aircraft with photographic equipment. Submarines with powerful echo sounders and sonars. Stations. Radio interception on the islands. Target. To record the anomaly. To understand that. Causes disappearance. Find a way. Prevent losses. The program was gaining. Data. Lots of data. For 28 years. Several thousand reports have accumulated. Strange phenomena. Glow underwater. Unidentified objects on radar screens. Magnetic surges. Jamming of radio communications. White water. Yes, white water was recorded. Repeatedly. Sailors of the Marine program. The guard saw her at least 15 times. Descriptions. Match what the captain said. Morrison. The water becomes dense. Viscous. Glows from the inside. Ships are losing control. Compasses are going crazy. Engine stall or run rough. Single. Time seems to slow down. One of the program participants, Engineer David Holmes, testified in 1996 to an independent researcher. Holmes was dying from cancer. I knew I had some life left to live. Not for long. I decided to tell you what. Remained silent for more than 20 years. He described the incident. 1962, research vessel Beagle entered the white water zone south of Bermuda. Crew of 23 people. On board scientific. Equipment worth several millions of dollars. The ship ended up in the center of a luminous spot with a diameter of about kilometers. Holmes was on deck and saw how the water around changes color. At first, greenish, then milky, then bright white. The glow is not superficial. It comes from the depths, like someone turned on a huge spotlight at the bottom. The ship froze, the engines roared, the propellers. They spun, but the ship did not move. Stood in place as if frozen in ice. Devices showed nonsense. Compasses rotated, the clock stopped. Radio was silent. And then the worst thing began. Strange. Holmes felt dizziness, nausea, sounds of steel, muffled, as if he was under water. The movement slowed down. He tried to raise his hand and saw how it moved slowly, very slowly, as if in thick syrup. Other crew members experienced the same thing. Someone fell on knees and began to vomit. Someone screamed, but the cries stretched into a low, drawn-out sound. The captain tried to give a command. Leave the zone, but the words came out, distorted. Time inside white. The water flowed differently. Holmes doesn't remember. How long did this last? Maybe a minute, maybe an hour. Subjectively, it seemed that an eternity passed. Then the glow began. Fade away. The water gradually lost its whiteness. The ship jerked and regained its bearings. Mobility. The devices started working. The clock went. The crew came to their senses and checked. Chronometers discovered something strange. According to them, it feels like several hours have passed. By 14 minutes passed according to the clock on the ship, but by radio communication with the base became clear from the moment. 3 hours have passed since the last communication session. 3 hours outside, 14 minutes on the ship, a few subjective hours for Crew, time passed at different speeds. Inside and outside the anomaly. It's impossible according to laws of physics. Yes, but it is. Happened and was recorded in the report. See Guardian Programs. Report which. Then they classified it and hid it in storage that is accessible to units of people in the Pentagon. Holmes told one more detail. Detail which explains a lot. When the water began to recede, the echo sounder managed to take a second to fix the source. Object, underwater at a depth of about 200 m. Object, regular geometric shape diameter, more than 300 m. Radiates energy. After the object disappeared from the screens, it just vanished, as if it switched off or went deeper than. Capable of detecting echo sounder. After, the Beagle crew went through a difficult process of returning to base. Medical examination. Doctors discovered some oddities. Everyone has elevated blood radiation levels. Not critical, but above normal. Several have. A person has burns on the skin, although no one exposed to sun or fire. The captain has temporary memory loss. Events preceding the entrance to the white water. The crew was placed in an isolation ward for 2 weeks. Observed, took tests. Prohibited contacts with anyone outside the medical unit. Then they released me by signing a non-disclosure agreement. Anyone who breaks the silence will get 20 years. Prison for disclosing state information. Secrets. Holmes remained silent. He remained silent until the very death, or rather, until the moment when I realized that death was near, and I had to lose it already. Nothing. His testimony was recorded. A researcher named Robert Lindemann, a man who dedicated his life to studying Bermuda Triangle. Lindemann collected a huge archive of evidence, documents, clippings, photographs, all regarding the anomalies in the area. And in 1998, Lindemann published a book, White Water That the Military is Hiding. The book was published in a print run of 5,000 copies. A week after publication, the entire circulation were withdrawn from stores. Publishing house received a lawsuit from Ministry, U.S. Defense. Accusation publication. Classified information that threatens national security. The case was closed. Fast. The publisher paid compensation and pledged to destroy everything. Copies of the book. Lindemann has disappeared. His office closed. The phones were not answered. Neighbors. They said he left. Where did you go? Nobody knows. Several copies. The book survived. They were hidden by collectors. One copy was digitized and posted in Internet in 2006. The file was deleted repeatedly, but the Internet is designed in such a way to delete information completely. Impossible. The book is circulating on forums and file sharing services to this day. It has a chapter dedicated to underwater objects. Lindemann collected evidence from sailors who saw them. The description is amazing. Similar. Huge structures of the correct forms. Metal or stone, for sure, cannot be determined. They emit light and move silently. Sometimes they rise to surfaces, sometimes hang in place, sometimes disappear with incredible speed. What is this? Underwater bases, ancient structures, technology unknown, civilizations. Lindemann leaned towards the latter. He believed that under the water of the Bermuda, there's something created in the triangle. Not people, something very old or very alien, something that from time to time is activated and creates white water. And when ships or planes get into this zone at the moment of activation, they disappear. Where do they disappear to? Lindemann does not. No. I envision several options. Either the objects are destroyed, disintegrate at the molecular level, either move to another location, or are transferred to another time. Madness. Maybe. But how else can you explain the complete absence of debris? How to explain temporal anomalies that were recorded. See Guardian Program participants. How? Explain objects that are not, do not correspond to any known. Technologies? There is one more detail. A detail that is rarely talked about. The detail that makes the whole story even more strange. Sometimes ships and planes that disappeared in Bermuda. Triangle, found years later, decades later, found in places where they couldn't be. They are found in a state that defies logic. In 1969, fishermen off the coast of Florida came across a yacht, a drifting yacht without crew. The sails are raised, the rudder is secured, there is water and provisions in the hold. Everything looked as if the crew had just left vessel, but a ship's log was found on board. The last entry is dated 1948, 21 years old. The yacht disappeared in 1948 further south, Bermuda. The crew consists of 3 people. Search. They didn't give anything. The yacht was added to the list. Missing. And now, 21 years later, she returns by herself without a crew in excellent condition. Experts have investigated. Vessel. The body would show no signs of damage. Long stay in water. There are no sails. Have decayed. The rigging is not worn out. Oh, it looked like the yacht had gone into swimming yesterday, not 2 decades. Back. Where'd the crew go? Why isn't the yacht collapsed in 21 years? How did she come about? In the area from which it was at a distance. Hundreds of kilometers? Official version. The yacht was probably found and repaired. Then they threw him back into the sea. But that's not it. Explains why the ship's log was left untouched. Why are there no traces? Repairs or interventions. Why is everything on board in exactly the same condition in which it was in 1948? A similar case occurred in 1975. Cargo ship missing in 1953. Found drifting near Bohemian Islands. 22 years later. The body is in good condition. The load is on. Place, no crew. Found in the wheelhouse. A newspaper dated the day of disappearance. 22 years old. The vessel was supposed to be covered. Rust, become covered in barnacles. Begin. Rot, but it looked like was absent from our world for several weeks, not 2 decades. These cases, they don't advertise it. Only those who know about them was directly involved. Investigation. The reports are classified. Courts. Once discovered, they are quickly disposed of. No traces, no evidence. But there are photographs, there are copies, documents, there are witness statements. And all this speaks to one thing. In Bermuda, something is happening in the triangle that is not, fits within the framework of known science. Time flows differently there, or not at all. Flows. Objects disappear from our reality and sometimes return without crews, without explanation, like someone or something takes people and equipment. Let's go back. For what? For what purpose? What happens to those who disappeared? On these questions, no answers. There's only guesses, there are only theories, there are only fear of those who know the truth and are forced. Keep silent. The Sea Guardian program. Officially closed in 1974. Unofficial surveillance continues, just under a different name, with a different financing with more sophisticated technology. Modern satellites are monitoring the Bermuda area. Triangle around the clock. Underwater sensors record any anomalies. Warships regularly patrol the waters, but the information is not published. The data is not discussed. That's all. Remains a closely guarded secret. Why? Why such secrecy? Why? Governments of different countries are hiding information about anomalies in the triangle? The answer is simple. Panic. If people find out that in a certain area of the ocean the laws, physicists stop working. What's going on? Ships and planes disappear without a trace. That there are objects underwater of unknown origin will begin. Chaos. Trade routes through the triangle will be closed. Airlines will require compensation. Caribbean tourism will collapse. The region's economy will suffer. Easier. Keep silent. It's easier to deny. It's easier to explain. Every disappearance is natural. Reasons. Weather, technical. Malfunction, human factor. There's always an explanation to be found. Always. It is possible to reassure the public. But the truth is leaking out. Slowly, drop by drop. Through witnesses who dare to speak. Through documents that leak from archives. Through researchers who are not afraid. Ask uncomfortable questions. And the truth is that Bermuda, the triangle, is not a myth. This is real. Anomaly, the place where our world is, comes into contact with something else. With something, what we don't understand, with something that exists according to its own laws. White water, underwater objects, time shifts, disappearance without a trace. All this is real. All this happened. All this is happening. Still, last recorded, the Whitewater case dates back to 2007. A private yacht with 4 people on board entered the luminous zone. Coastal, the security received a distress signal. Yacht found after 3 hours, drifting without crew. There are traces of a struggle on the deck. In the wheelhouse, broken devices. In the ship's log, last entry, the water turned white. We can't move. Something is rising from below. For people disappeared without a trace. Disappeared. In the 21st century, if available, satellite communications, if systems are available, tracking, in the presence of modern search techniques, disappeared like hundreds before them. How is it possible that hundreds more will disappear after? The Bermuda Triangle continues. Take lives, continues to keep. Secrets, continues to challenge science and logic. And the worst thing is that we still don't know what's going on there. In fact, we don't know what kind of objects these are. Hide underwater. We don't know where. We don't know where the missing people go. Will this ever end? Lieutenant Charles Taylor, in recent, minutes before disappearing, he said, Here again. Who are they? This question remains unanswered for 70 years. In 1991, the Soviet Union ceased. Exist. The system collapsed. They opened up. Archives, documents hidden for decades began to surface. Western researchers gained access to materials about the existence of which was previously only guessed. Among these materials, it turned out to be a folder with a special classification. Importance. Case code number 084753. Inside are 217 pages of typewritten text. In Russian, Soviet reports. Intelligence on U.S. Navy activities in the area. Caribbean Sea. The Soviets were watching. Watch closely. They were interested. Everything the Americans did in the waters. Close to Cuba. Every ship, every flight, every radio transmission. And they recorded what the American command preferred. Keep silent. The Sea Guardian program. Soviet intelligence knew about her from the very beginning. I started to know about the strange disappearances, knew about white water, knew about the objects underwater, and most importantly, knew about what the Americans found in the report from March 17, 1954. The following is said about the year. Agent Under, pseudonym Albatross, who worked as a technician at one of the American bases. Bermuda passed on information about the secret expeditions. 3 underwater vehicles with the crews descended to a depth of 400 m, south of the islands. Purpose of the dive. It was not officially announced, but the teams received instructions to look for metal structures on the bottom. Found structure. The Dvina is about 800 m long, 200 m wide, and has a height of about 50 m above the bottom. Correct. Geometric shape. The material is similar to metal, but analysis is impossible without taking samples. The surface is smooth without traces. Corrosion. The design shows symbols. No letters, no numbers. Geometric. Signs unlike any known. Alphabet. The submariners took photographs. Lots of photos, then tried. Get closer. And then something strange started to happen. The instruments started to malfunction. Compasses started spinning. Communication with the surface interrupted. One of the devices started. Lose control. Expedition commander ordered to surface immediately. They surfaced. Reported to the command. In 2 days on, a group from the Pentagon arrived at the base. High-ranking officials, civilian specialists. They took all the materials, interviewed the teams, ordered to remain silent. More to that, no one went down to the structure. Officially, Agent Albatross handed over a copy of one. Photos. The quality is poor. Snapshot. Taken from a monitor screen. In the dark. Room. But something is visible on it. Dark. Mass of regular shape. On the surface. Patterns or signs or something else. The photograph disappeared from Soviet archives. The folder with the report was saved. But everything. There are no applications for it. Someone cut out the pages with images. I really didn't want these pictures to become public domain, but the information leaked through people, through rumors, through those who read the reports before them. Cleanups. One of such people is Viktor Alexandrovich Cherenkov, officer of the Soviet Naval Intelligence, served in Analytical Department, worked with materials on the Caribbean region. I saw the reports, I saw the photographs, I read. Expert analysis. After the collapse of the USSR, Cherenkov came out. Pension, lived quietly, didn't tell anyone about his work. But in 2003 he gave interview for a short documentary. Channel told about what he knew about. Structures at the bottom of the Bermuda. Triangle about the Americans. They found them back in the 50s. About that the Soviet Union also tried. Explore the area, but without success. Cherenkov died 3 months later. Interview. The official reason is heart failure. He was 72 years old. Age, of course, but death occurred suddenly. The day before I felt great. The neighbors saw. He was walking in the park and was found in the morning, dead in bed. Interview recording. Disappeared. The channel stated that the film, damaged, it is impossible to restore. There are no copies left. Or is there anything left? But they are hidden very securely. Structures on. Day. Here is the key to everything. That's what explains the disappearance. Here is the source. White water. This is the reason for the temporary anomalies the American military knew about. This has been the case since the 50s. Maybe earlier, perhaps even since the Second World, but they remained silent, created secret programs, researched, accumulated data, and didn't say a word anyone. Why? Because the truth is too much. Dangerous. The truth calls everything into question. What do we know about the world? Truth compels. Think about who built these structures. When built, why? Built, and most importantly, who or what can still remain inside them. Admiral George Stevens, commander, Atlantic Fleet, since 1957 until 1962. Year, person under whose leadership the main research was carried out within the framework of the Sea Guardian program. Human, who saw all the reports, all photographs, all test results. Stevens retired in 1963. Year, settled in a quiet town in Virginia. Never publicly again. Spoke about his service. Refused. From interviews, did not write memoirs. Remained silent. Shortly before his death, in 1989, that year Stevens called his grandson to him, a 17-year-old boy who was into history. The old man was weak. Doctors, they said that there were only a few days left to live. Days. Stevens knew this and decided to pass it on. Something important for my grandson. He gave it to him. A small box, told not to open it. With him. Open it later and keep it secret. Until he realizes that. Do with the contents. The grandson promised. Stevens died 2 days later. The grandson opened. Box. There were documents and copies inside. Document from the Navy archives. Reports. See Guardian programs. Photos. Maps with marks and a note from grandfather. The note read, "What you see here, really. We found something at the bottom. Ocean. Something that shouldn't exist according to our knowledge. Something ancient or something alien. We tried to understand. They couldn't. We tried. Get closer, lost people. We tried to forget. It didn't work. This knowledge is dangerous, but silence is also dangerous. Decide for yourself." The grandson kept the documents for 20 years. I didn't show it to anyone. I was afraid. I understood that it could ruin his life. But in 2009, he published some materials on the internet anonymously, without indication. Source. The reaction was immediate. The materials were removed after a few hours. The account was blocked and the traces were cleared. But several people managed to download it. Files copied, distributed. Further, among these materials were photographs of structures on the bottom, fuzzy, grainy, made primitive, underwater camera in the 50s, but clear enough to understand that it is not, natural formation, straight lines, angles, symmetry, signs on the surface. All this speaks of artificiality. Origin. Someone built this, someone a long time ago, or someone possessing technology much superior to ours. Experts who saw. Photographs. Opinions were divided. Some, they said it was a fake. Editing, acting. Light and shadow on natural rock. Formations. Others are careful. They suggested that perhaps these were the remains. Unknown ancient civilization. Third, refused to comment at all, citing lack of data. But nobody, there are no official representatives of science, stated directly, "Yes, it's real, it's there." This requires immediate study, because to say such a thing means admit that everything that was taught in universities, everything that is written in textbooks may be incomplete or incorrect. The military remains silent. Navy, the U.S. has not commented on the leaked documents. I didn't confirm, I didn't deny, I just ignored. How everyone ignored. Previous leaks, how will they be? Ignore the following? Strategy. Simple. Don't pay attention. Don't give. Official statements. Do not enter into. Discussions. Any attention to the topic attracts more attention. Silence, though, gradually extinguishes interest. People forget, switch to other news. Life goes further, but there are those who don't. Forgets. Those who continue to dig. Continues to search for evidence. Continues to ask uncomfortable questions. Jennifer Cole, Ph.D., oceanographer, deep sea specialist. Research, worked in several. Expeditions, dived in bathyscapes. Studied underwater mountains and canyons. In 2011, in 2008, Cole received a private funding for an expedition to the area. Bermuda Triangle. Official. The goal is to study the bottom fauna.